Welcome to The Plan with Hank Mulvihill. Hank is a registered investment advisor and a licensed health and life insurance professional. An important note: opinions expressed on the plan are for educational purposes only and are not to be considered individual investment advice for any person. Investing involves risk. You must do your own due diligence prior to making any investment decisions. For additional information, visit our website, Mulvihill Asset Management, at theplan.net. And now, here's Hank.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome back. This is The Plan with Hank Mulvihill. I'm Hank, and I'm here with Cindy Vokey. Hi, Cindy.
Hey, Hank.
Yep, this is going to be a fun show to end January, and it's been an interesting month. I opened the month all full of enthusiasm that the S&P sometime this year would touch 2014. And I was all full of enthusiasm that January usually leads the way the year goes, and so far January's been a disappointment. There's just no denying it. It's been a disappointment. We're basically sideways to slightly down, and so I have to explain that.
Yeah, what's going on?
I have to talk about it. Otherwise, all of y'all out there think I just am permanently bullish and don't pay attention.
So tell us,
okay,
what's happening?
Here's what I think's going on. We had such a phenomenal year last year, plus 30% really across the board on just about all the growth areas. And when things like that happen, a lot of people make so much money, they push off the realizing of the capital gains until the following year. That's one thing at the individual level. At the institutional level, when portfolios swell as rapidly as they did all through the end, from Thanksgiving, well, actually the rally didn't really start until the middle of December, the super melt up. And so when something happens that quickly, the portfolio managers need to rebalance. They find themselves out of balance. And I think a certain amount of selling is mandated by the investment policies of certain institutions. I think that, believe it or not, as optimistic as I am for the next several years for stocks in America, I still think that the traditional rebalancing requirements of large institutions are impacting us today. I do. However, I think that will be finished before long. And I also will always come back to, no matter what I think or what you hear about on various news channels, if the Fed is supporting the markets are going to do fine. Has anything changed that? And my answer is no. My beloved Fed spread, the difference between the overnight rate of money and the 10-year U.S. Treasury, is still 2.7. As long as it's above 1.2, we should enjoy growth of some kind. There are many other things that point toward, I think, a good 2014 in the economy. The markets may be a little slower getting underway this year than they were last year, but this has been a phenomenal rally. It really dates from about September of 2012 all the way till New Year's of 2013. So about 15 months of one of the most stupendous straight-up rallies that we've ever had. So a break is not to be really unexpected, and I don't think it's by any means the end of the total bull market move. I don't. I'm commenting that we've gone sideways in a period where I thought we would go up. I acknowledge that my initial January enthusiasm has at least been tempered. Okay? So I acknowledge that.
Well, don't we have the world economy improving anyway, too?
We do.
Well, how does that affect us?
I think that the more economies that are in sync and improving all around the globe, the better. I think it's just better for everybody. More goods and services flowing and more trade being done, and I think that's better for everybody. So let's see. Well, that's my comment on the stock market. The bond market, interestingly enough, we've seen a decline in rates. Yes, who would imagine that? A slight decline from about 3% to about 2.8% on that 10-year U.S. Treasury I'm talking about. So a slight decline, and that means mortgages are a little bit less interest rate expensive. The interest rates have fallen slightly coming into 2014. That'll be good for housing.
Big question here. Do you see it going down anymore?
Hank's prediction on interest rates. Remember my old thing here. I can pick a number, but never a date. So, do I think interest rates will decline from here? It all depends on what the Fed wants, really. It does. And I don't see a meaningful decline. I also don't see a meaningful increase. Is that...
So get your mortgage, do it now, right?
Oh,
buy
that house now?
I think
you may be getting a nice reprieve, actually. I think I'll just let it go at that. Again, this is entertainment and education, not mortgage advice. So I think there are a couple of other forces that are poised to drive the markets quite a bit higher. I really do. Did everybody out there notice what happened in the world of investing, at least at the individual selection level, after the crash of 2008? And I've talked about this before on the show. Do you know what everybody bought? Everybody bought bonds, and everybody allocated bond mutual funds in their retirement accounts and their IRAs. And guess what? They did that from, I'm not kidding, from September of 2008 until, are you ready for this? May or June of 2013. Are you listening to this?
We had a show about that.
We've done. I talk about it a lot, and I do not dislike bonds. I like bonds for what you do when you lend money to somebody for a fixed period of time for a fixed rate of interest, and you're comfortable with the deal. What I don't like are bond mutual funds, where you have no control about getting your money back on a date certain. That I don't like. And when interest rates rise, the value of bond mutual funds decline. That's just the way it is. And so when that has been happening, which it has over the last 6 or 7 months, people are waking up and looking at their statements and saying, the stock market's doing pretty well. My bond funds look pretty bad. And guess what happened in June of 2013? For the first time in almost 5 years. Remember the 08 date I was giving you a minute ago. People started buying more stocks than bonds. Now, this cycle usually runs a long time. It doesn't usually run 6 or 7 months. I think the great rotation coming out of bonds and into stocks at the individual level has very much farther to go. I have some hard data about how much money went into bond funds, nearly $2 trillion after 08. Okay, I think $2 trillion of buying power, let's say half of it comes in. That's not bad. That's a pretty good impetus into a $23 trillion stock market. Add another trillion of buying power, and I think it's on the way. And I just don't think that this current January weakness and the ill feeling is going to last much longer. I think that the buying that people are going to do and at the individual level, reallocating for growth is going to absolutely kick off another round of what I see as appreciation in stocks. So I think that's a very powerful thing. I like the leading economic indicators, and I focus on that because my beloved Fed spread is a big part of LEI, like 32% of it. And LEI are still positive. LEI are still positive. It's a monthly data survey, just came out last week, and it looks very nice going forward. And so if LEI are positive, and it's a very sensitive survey and very short in its outlook, they only really have about a 45-day lag. And so if it's favorable, it tends to be a good near-term indicator. So if LEI look good, and if I think the flow of funds into stocks is likely to remain in good shape, then I think we're going to be okay. Now, as I close this opening segment, I have to call out the wonderful music you're about to hear. A truly brilliant gentleman named Eddie Coker. Eddie Coker. You can see everything you want to know about him on eddiecoker.com. And he licensed or gave me permission to use the songs that I close these segments with. And I love it. Great philosophy. eddiecoker.com. Go take a look. And in a minute, you'll hear a listen. Hank and Cindy, we'll be back with you in a few minutes.
You are successful. You have a goal to sustain and grow your wealth over the long term. After hearing Hank, you may be thinking right now, my investment plan needs attention. I need to set a personal appointment. That's simple. Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001. There's no charge for the meeting. Call 972-234-2001. Meet with Hank to discuss your plan. Before you go, check out theplan.net to see how Hank does business with wealth management clients. You will have an opportunity to talk about the wealth strategist issues with the optimist economist himself, Hank Mulvihill. Want to move to that next level? Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001. And be sure to go online and check out theplan.net.
Slip out the back, check, make a new plan. You don't need to be coy, bro. You just listen to me.
Welcome back, welcome back. We love making plans on this radio show, The Plan. Cindy, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay. You know, I got so excited talking about the stock market, and I got so excited about talking about the indicators and what I see as the future of 2014. And then I got all excited about the grand musical mentor that underpins these segments that I completely forgot to acknowledge the great interview we're going to have here in a few minutes with John Corona. And he's going to be on talking about his incredible business that he founded and took to 10,000 employees. And there's a shout out I have to give, which is, do you know that I looked up that out of nearly 50 million United States businesses, that there are less than 1,000, about 980, that have 10,000 employees or more? So to start a company in your own lifetime and take it from 1 employee to 10,000 is one impressive achievement. And this man's done it, and he'll be our guest. So stay with us. He'll be on in about 10, 15 minutes. So stay with us. We're now are going to key off of some of the things we were talking about a minute ago. And Cindy had a terrific question.
I've got a question. We just talked about how 2013 May, investors just started to sell their bonds and get into the stock market. And I don't understand what took them so long. I mean, what about leadership? Did they not have leadership, someone to tell them, or did they not pay attention to what was going on?
Well, I'm going to speak as a money manager. And let's face it, there are two kinds of money managers out there. There are ones that are going to be proactive and are going to instruct the clients on what needs to happen. And then there are other ones who are going to go along with what the client wants to do. And my point for money manager B that goes along with what the client wants to do is, why is money manager B necessary?
Yeah, you could do it yourself.
Well, and many people do.
No one's going to do anything.
And a lot of people did. And let me tell you, I've been calling for stocks to outperform, and I'm on tape. You can look at theplan.net, Hank Mulvihill videos. I'm on tape in late fall of 2009 calling for stocks to outperform. And I really called earlier than that, but that's the first video I could find to prove it. And so what I am saying is, although it runs against the popular perception, and trust me, obviously, buying stocks ran against the popular perception all the way up until the middle of last year. And so I think that leadership is important. I think you have to do what you know works best for the client. And hiding in bonds when bonds are about to get creamed, I don't think is a good service to the client. And I definitely don't think staying in 2% interest rate instruments while you're trying to ensure a healthy retirement makes any sense at all.
Or even lower.
Yeah, lower. I mean, bank CDs, what, 0.5%? And so clearly, I use the tagline during our promotionals, which the Fed is telling you to get out of bonds. Well, they certainly are get out of CDs and get out of the bank deposits, and they are. When they keep interest rates at near zero, they're telling you to go find some growth. And so are, I believe, your leadership advisors. We count ourselves on that side of the street. When things turn against us, we know, and we know when that happens. That's when the Fed is no longer supporting the Fed spread and things get tight. That leads to recessions. We know how to get out of the way of the danger. Yes, we do. And we know how to tell people about that. I've been lecturing about it for more than a decade.
So you are seeing these things happen, looking at the Fed spread and the leading economic indicators.
Certainly.
Way back in 2009.
Oh, in 2000, well, actually, that particular 2009 was the recovery, and that was when the Fed spread wide opened. And by the way, the Fed spread's been wide open since late 2008, and it's taken this long for people to realize that stocks are a pretty good place to be. So it's much more than managing stocks. When you talk about wealth management, I want to devote some time to upper-level, high-end wealth management. It's much more than making a household budget. We like to say we come in after you've got the basics in place. I have some credentials. I'm very proud of them, and I want to emphasize that we serve what we call the next level. Okay, and I want to position that wealth management as an art. I use the tagline also, we can show you what your picture should look like. All right, wealth management is an art, and we can show you what your picture should look like. And any competent wealth manager can do this. We've made a career out of trying to push the knowledge base as high as we can get. And people have complicated and deeply involved multi-generational perspectives, and they own a lot of things. Stocks are a small part of it. Happen to be an important part and a very liquid and tradable part, but a small part. You have private company ownership, you have executive benefits, you have detailed life insurance plans, you often have land holdings and mineral interests and the various other things, businesses. that are very important in wealth management. And we've chosen as a firm to concentrate on how to help people through those issues. We have, and we call it the next level. And there's some very important things to look at, and I hope everybody has heard. We did the 13 wealth management issues. It's a whole show. Go look on our website. All the shows are archived out there. And again, none of this is selling. Please understand, I'm telling what we do, and I'm telling what you should look for if you go look for a good wealth manager.
Okay, so tell us some more.
Okay, well, I mean, clearly, some of the things to look at are you've got the human dynamics of the family. You've got the human dynamics of the people who have accrued the wealth, everybody they interact with and touch. And a lot of that is very interesting, almost philosophical. Really it is. How do people feel about their money? How do they feel about it? What do they want to do with it? Who do they want to empower?
It's personal. Every case is different.
Certainly. There's no textbook thing here. We serve people. We serve human beings, successful human beings. And they made it. It's our job to help them do the things they need to do with it. And that involves a whole team of specialists, and we're blessed with hundreds and hundreds of world-class people we can call on from accounting and law and structure of different kinds of plans and insurance consulting and very high-level estate planning. And we're very fortunate to have that network. But it's all about really what the people want to accomplish. We exist to make sure they accomplish it in a somewhat risk-controlled fashion. We can't ever take all the risk out, but we do the best we can to illustrate how things ought to be positioned and titling. And all of that under I call it behavioral dynamics, the thinking, what people really want.
And you're also you're giving choices. You're showing all the possibilities. But it's up to the client to decide.
Always, always. And we will say, here are the things that are working and the things that look to be working for a period of time. And then we'll say, here are the things that work over long periods of time, and we will illustrate those things. We're not going to pound people to death with points of view. We're going to illustrate what we think historical trends have done to help people preserve and grow their wealth. So we like to do that. And a lot of that gets into deep consultation with the attorneys and the accountants on tax planning and strategies. We clearly understand the portfolio management and how to find the best ways to grow the money with, we think, the best opportunities. We're very, very clear about that. And we understand the risk management piece in that when things are against you, you don't have to sail into the wind. You just don't have to do that. Nothing says you have to stay there and take a beating. I'm not afraid to go to cash when things turn miserable. I'm not. And so I'm an unusual manager myself. And again, in your search, if you're looking for wealth management, find someone who's willing to take a leadership position. And by the way, find somebody who has no ego. I certainly don't. You know what? The market takes that away from you if you're any good at all. It really does.
I think the other thing, too, is about having someone who will listen. I mean, half the time you find somebody and they're just not paying attention to what you're saying. So we're actually there to listen to you and hear what you have to say.
Cindy, that was very, very nice. And I thank you. That's so true. That's so true. You want to talk some more about that?
Well, it's just that, you go somewhere and you're trying to deal with a situation, and this is very personal, your finances, and you've worked really hard to make it. And retirement, pensions, people are taking your pensions away from you, all these other things. You need to safeguard your money, and you don't want somebody to find a financial advisor who's going to steal from you. I mean, that's
certainly true. And we again, it's always the client's money. It's always in the client's tax ID number. We're just appointed as managers, and I think that's a good, clean business model. And I urge people considering turning over wealth to anybody to understand where the money sits, who holds it, and who has access to it. And that should always be the client and only the client. And the manager gets to manage it. I'm not in favor of black boxes, lockup situations. I like full disclosure, and that's how we operate. And we advise people to build their foundations on that. And I was trying to give Cindy some opportunity to illustrate that even though I'm on here and talking and I have a fair pacing and the rate that I like to do this show, I listen. I do listen. I really do. And that's the important piece of what I think a comprehensive wealth manager should start with, is listening. Then design the plans, constantly stay in touch with the clients, and understand what it really means. Because it's bedrock planning, but it's generational planning. What a good wealth manager can do is influence generations for a long time. So Hank and Cindy, stay tuned for the great interview, and we'll be back in a minute.
You are successful. You have a goal to sustain and grow your wealth over the long term. After hearing Hank, you may be thinking right now, my investment plan needs attention. I need to set a personal appointment. That's simple. Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001. There's no charge for the meeting. Call 972-234-2001. Meet with Hank to discuss your plan. Before you go, check out theplan.net to see how Hank does business with wealth management clients. You'll have an opportunity to talk about the wealth strategist issues with the optimist economist himself, Hank Mulvihill. Successful? Want to move to that next level? Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001.
God bless Texas.
Hello, friends. Hello. Welcome back to the Economic Outlook, Market Opinion, and Texas Growth Radio Show, The Plan with Hank Mulvihill. We use the tagline Optimist Economist because we are truly optimistic about the next several years in Texas and the United States economies. We have talked a lot about the rapid population growth, which may be currently 2,000 or 3,000 people every day, and what this means for our prosperity. Well, you know, all of these Texans own or rent a place to live. Our guest speaker today is a gentleman who can give us insights into Texas and national housing trends and tell us what it takes to go from one employee to 10,000 employees and how to successfully manage that business growth while finding time for 5 kids and a long career in the Texas legislature. Our guest today is John Corona, President and Chief Executive Officer, Chairman, and founder of Associa. Associa is the largest residential property management firm in North America with nearly 10,000 employees. John, thank you for joining us today.
Hank, I'm glad to be here with you today, and I really do look forward to our conversation.
Well, it's going to be fun. I mean, your story is something that I definitely wanted to share. We wanted to bring you onto this show to discuss the phenomenal growth of the company that you founded, I believe, when you were 22 years old, Associa. You know, many of our listeners here on the radio show know your name because of your long service as an elected official in the Texas legislature. So before we get to business, how did you get into politics?
Well, you know, it really goes all the way back to my years as a college student at the University of Texas at Austin, and I was a young Republican, and there weren't a lot of young Republicans on that campus at that time. But I began volunteering for various candidates along the way, and as is often the case, after years of volunteering in different roles, finance chairman and campaign manager and so forth, I finally decided I needed to do one of two things: either quit and devote that time elsewhere to building a business, or perhaps at the right opportunity run as a candidate myself. And that's exactly what happened. An opportunity came up to run for the Texas House, and that's exactly what I did in 1990.
My goodness. And how did that campaign go?
Well, I won. There's nothing like winning to give you the drive to go on to the next race. I served 3 terms in the Texas House, 6 years, and then an opportunity came up unexpectedly for a seat in the Texas Senate, and I had, of course, was quite familiar with the work being done in the Senate there at the state capitol, and felt like that was a greater opportunity to serve the citizens of our community and do so in a much broader capacity. There are a lot of things you can get done as a state senator that are much more difficult to get done as a state representative. And made that run in 1996, and again was very fortunate. The people of the district elected me, as they have every term since, and I've really enjoyed it. It's been one of the great honors and privileges in life to be able to represent North Texas and to be able to represent a district like the one I do. The people genuinely care about good government, and that makes my job easier.
Well, I sure thank you for your service, as I thank anybody who goes down there for, I believe, the whopping salary of $7,200 for 24 months of service. So I give up all your free time, but thank you very much. I really appreciate everything. I mean that from the heart. And,
you're quite welcome.
You know, a lot of us here in Texas don't really understand that there aren't very many Texas state senators. How many are there?
There are 31 of us, and we represent a state with a population of roughly 25 million. In fact, a population that in the next 30 years is estimated to double, and it's a big responsibility. In Senate District 16, which I represent, we have roughly 900,000 people. It's larger than a U.S. congressional district, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. But I enjoy people, and I enjoy being able to represent a district with a lot of diverse views, and we certainly have that. And what I've found is it doesn't really matter the political party. If people sit down and deal respectfully with one another, then the outcome is generally a favorable one.
Well, that's well put. And I can't really resist. Okay, we're supposed to be on business, but before we leave Texas and politics, what do you see as the great issues facing our state?
Oh, there's no question. You've got just a handful, but they're all very significant. Water is probably the single most significant issue because we just can't have economic development in Texas if we don't have a reliable water supply. Voters, by a margin of 80-20, approved a substantial means of funding for future reservoirs in the last election. That won't solve all of the challenge, but it's a huge and important first step. Transportation, one of the things the legislature has still not been able to find the right solution to is how do you deal with the congestion on our highways, particularly in light of the estimated population doubling over the next 30 years. And of course, you can't build roads for free. So the question is, do you continue to toll every road? And that's a very expensive thing to do from a taxpayer standpoint. Or do you replace the current gasoline tax, or do you periodically increase the gas tax with inflation? There are a number of different approaches. I think the real answer lies in letting the voters choose. That we should put, as a legislature, we should put the options before the voters and let them decide how best they'd like to fund. But what people don't want is even greater congestion. And, of course, businesses will not come to Texas and they won't stay in Texas if we don't have an efficient means of transportation. And finally, public education. As a state grows and prospers, you have to have an educated workforce. And we certainly have difficulties in terms of performance and achievement in some of our larger urban districts across Texas. Dallas is certainly not immune to the problems of a big urban district, and so much more has to be done there to make sure the dollars are spent in a wiser fashion, that they're directed to where the greatest need is, and that we're not spending excessively for administrative costs when those same dollars could and should be in the classroom paying our teachers.
Okay, well, those are all great calls to action, and thank you for that great overview. Let's get to the point of the business call. We wanted to have you on here to talk about the incredible company that you started and still are chairman and operating chief executive officer of Associa. Can you tell us all about how it got started and how it grew to have 10,000 employees?
Well, I'll try in the few minutes we have here. What I will tell you is, as much as I love public service, I love business even more. I do serve as the founder of the firm. Started with myself and one employee 34 years ago, and we built that into a company today that employs just under 10,000 people throughout the U.S., in Canada, and also in Mexico. And within the next 12 months, we'll be in Australia as well. So some great opportunities there. People ask that question of me often, how do you go and grow a company over that time? And I would tell you that the biggest single thing for me, at least, has been in goal setting. I think that when you're trying to build an organization, you've got to constantly challenge yourself. You really can't ever, rest on your laurels, if you will. You have to be able to be focused and disciplined. And so the most consistent thing I've done over all of these years of building the company is to always have goals, near-term goals as well as a longer-term vision of where I wanted to go. And I would set these goals in terms of where I wanted to be annually in terms of growth, the number of new accounts. And the other thing you have to do is you have to be fiscally responsible. It's very tempting as a company grows and you see that additional revenue to let the expenses get out of control. And there are a lot of things entrepreneurs want to be able to do for their businesses to help them grow, most of which require the expenditure of dollars. But it is so important to be disciplined there that you be able to, with every dollar you spend, equate the value of that expenditure to what performance outcome you'll achieve. And I've been focused there as well. I was a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, and I had a double major in real estate and in insurance. And so I think that, coupled with the financial background that I received there at the University of Texas, helped me to zero in on what was most important to build our company. And of course, you've got to be a leader. There's no question about the fact that when you're trying to build a large organization, you need to be the person who is the best cheerleader, the number one spokesperson, the person who shares with the company where you're headed. People will step up and follow a leader if he has a vision and if he's mapped out a course of action. And that's something I've tried to do. And it doesn't have to be as formal or as sophisticated as one might think when first hearing that word. People, though, to build an organization need an inspirational leader, and I've tried to be those things. No one's perfect, and every business has successes and setbacks along the way, and we're no different at all in that regard. But we never let those setbacks get us down, and we always picked ourselves back up and continued to focus. And so today, we have 170 offices across the country. I mentioned to you we've got a vast number of people that work for the company. We have a worldwide and growing clientele, but we try to treat every one of those clients as if they're our only client. And especially when you're in the customer service business, it's all about service delivery and focus. And people expect ordinary service. What you've got to be able to deliver if you want to grow is exceptional service. That added something that shows that you care about the business and that you're constantly trying to improve your own internal operations for the good of the client.
That's outstanding. I'm going to come back to some other aspects about growth and operating as CEO, a tremendous growth story. But I wanted also to ask for your insight. Many of your clients are the country's largest builders, both single-family and multifamily, condo, and I suspect by now even assisted living complexes and various other larger residential footprint properties. And I'd like to ask what your trend is. I read the statistics that most of the American appetite these days is for smaller residential units. A lot of them are apartments. A lot of them are condominiums. What do you see as the leading residential property management company in North America?
Well, the good news is that I see action again. Movement in and of itself after the recession that we all suffered through is obviously a good thing. But you're absolutely correct. The pattern of housing is changing in terms of what people believe is best suited for them. We are seeing a tendency toward smaller housing and more efficient housing, certainly housing that is greener, more environmentally friendly. But, these things are always cyclical, and they always are trend-like. And just the fact that we're seeing new development, new subdivisions being built right now, new multifamily communities, both apartment and condominium, well under construction in most parts of the country, the fact that we're seeing an appreciation in housing prices in existing homes, all of those things signal a rebound. Now, it's a delicate rebound. I will not say that we've seen enough of a track record yet to say, well, we're on our way and everything's moving up. I think we need to watch closely. I think it has been somewhat tepid at times over the last 12 months, and we see a few mixed signals. But I would tell you personally, based on my own experience and our own observation internally, that I'm bullish on the housing market, and I do believe that there may be some dips along the way, but I think we're moving back in the right direction again. And again, while the momentary trend may be toward smaller, more efficient housing in some markets, there will continue to be a robust market for large homes as well, simply because as the economy improves, there are a lot of people making a lot of money, and most of those people, and that rank among our highest income are looking for homes that are grand and spacious. And I'm fortunate as a company on this end in that we represent the entire spectrum, from small homes to starter homes to luxury homes to high-rise condominiums. We represent a vast number of gated communities throughout the country, and we're actually the largest manager of housing for those 55 and older in the U.S. It's not something as a company we have boasted, but no one in the country currently that manages this particular product segment manages as many of those communities as we do.
Well, that's really going to be a huge growth area as the baby boomers continue to move into those kinds of housing units, no doubt about it. Now, you gave us a hint earlier about goal setting and how important that's been in your professional success. And this show is called The Plan. And I can't get out of here without asking you about your personal, what you do personally. You've got 5 children, long marriage, and tremendous obligations. How do you do all that?
Well, it's not to say there haven't been some sleepless nights over the years, but everybody has to have a plan, and we say that sometimes people think we're talking about something far more sophisticated than it even needs to be. But people need to plan ahead, and they need to set money aside. They need to make projections on what their future needs will be, and of course, one of the things we all recognize is that our needs change over time, and so not only is it important to have a plan, but it's important to regularly pull that plan out, dust it off, and refresh.
No doubt about that. And that's what we do as professional wealth managers, constantly refresh, rinse, slather, and repeat. And here, this is the closing segment of our interview. And I always like to give the subjects, the people who come on, the opportunity to do whatever you'd like. So the microphone is yours. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, I think it's important that, people be involved regardless of their profession, that, again, as we were speaking a moment ago, that they have a plan and that they're setting money aside. But I also think it's important that they be involved today in government. It's important that people vote. It's important they pay attention to the key issues of the day. We live in a time when there is reason to be concerned, and regardless of whether you're one political party or the other, there are a lot of things that have made this country great that I think that we sometimes take for granted, and in fact I think there's little question that that's the case. And if people want good government, they have to participate. So what I always like to say to people is, regardless of your party affiliation, regardless of your preferred candidate, go and vote and let your views be heard. Be involved in the political process, because everybody, whether they recognize it or not, has a very direct stake in it. And we can do all of the planning in the world, but if we plan it based upon living in a free and capitalistic society, and yet we don't participate to ensure that form of government thrives, well, then we're probably all a bit blind and a bit naive. And so I'm encouraged by the fact that your listeners are people that are responsible and do plan for the future and take that extra time and make those plans and set those goals. I hope as part of that, they'll also be involved in our civic duties as well, because I think that really is at the heart of what's key to continued prosperity in our community.
Well, amen. Amen. That was a powerful way to sum it up, and I appreciate you taking that time. Friends, we've been joined today by John Corona, the chairman and founder of Associa. He has an interesting side engagement, which you have heard some rumors about here as he's spoken to us. And John, I hope we have an opportunity to bring you back. It's been awesome, and I wish you the best of success.
Hank, thank you so much. I've enjoyed being with you and your listeners.
You are successful. You have a goal to sustain and grow your wealth over the long term. After hearing Hank, you may be thinking right now, my investment plan needs attention. I need to set a personal appointment. That's simple. Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001. There's no charge for the meeting. Call 972-234-2001. Meet with Hank to discuss your plan. Before you go, check out theplan.net to see how Hank does business with wealth management clients. You will have an opportunity to talk about the wealth strategist issues with the optimist economist himself, Hank Mulvihill. Want to move to that next level? Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001. And be sure to go online and check out theplan.net.
Okay, here it is. We're going to finish up the show. Thanks for staying with us. We've talked a lot about what we think the future of 2014 holds. We've talked about why we think it's a choppy market and we think it'll get better. We have a terrific outline. I hope you heard that. I hope you heard us discuss what higher level wealth management is all about. Okay, yes, it's about making what's inside the portfolios get bigger. Yes, it's about proper structure, titling, and understanding the flow of money between generations. And yes, it's about finding the best specialist to help you do all of those things. It is about all of that. And we're proud that we do know how to do that and do it very well. And guess what it's really about? Cindy was really driving on to this. It's about listening. Isn't that ironic that as a radio show host, I'd be talking about listening? Because what am I doing now? I'm talking. But you're listening to me. I'm telling you that a proper financial relationship, a proper wealth management firm will greatly listen a lot more to what the clients really want. And sometimes the clients are a little bit nervous. It's amazing. People can be very wealthy and still be a little bit scared of the future and scared of witness the fact people stayed in bond funds for 4.5 years. People were scared. So that's what we think it is a bit of leadership. We got to hear some pretty great stuff from John Corona. And Cindy, what would you say about that?
Well, the main things I took, it was an amazing thing to listen to, but the biggest things I took from it were he said he was focused on his business, on succeeding. He made goals. He kept setting goals even when he failed. And leadership. He looked for leadership, and he was a leader. So I think those are big things that you can take with you into your own personal world, your personal financial world as well.
Well, I agree. I thought he did a wonderful call to action for both personal and business leadership and drive and goal setting. And again, The Plan, that's the name of the radio show. If you don't make a good plan and stick to it and constantly refresh it, how can you expect to succeed? The world does not stay the same. You have to continually adapt. No one point of view will ever be true all the time. It just won't. In the world of managing money, you have to be able to be flexible. Some things do stand the test of time. Superior cash flow entities will win because they have more money. That's just kind of a basic, right? And you don't want to fight the Fed. That's another basic. Okay, I can't ever get into that conversation without coming back to that. And so when we take those basic strengths and bring them into the conversation, we try to illustrate to the clients that it isn't all about fear. There is a lot of growth happening. There are a lot of wonderful things happening, particularly in the United States. It's our structure wants entrepreneurial success. Witness a man who took his company from 1 to 10,000 employees. And our political and economic structure makes it fairly simple for just about anybody to go do business. And it makes it very simple for you to buy and sell and invest and position wealth in ways that serve you. We're very fortunate about that. We really are.
Well, the other thing, too, I heard from John Corona, surround yourself with the best leadership you can and be a great leader and learn from those people. But I also see that in your own personal financial world. I mean, I certainly don't know everything. I surround myself with as many great leaders as I can. Makes me become a better leader myself. So that's what I look for anyway.
Well, I agree. I do that in running my practice. We bring in the very best people we can bring in to solve individual problems, and that's what we We do. And we constantly upgrade the learning that we have in place, the continuing education, and we're constantly challenging ourselves with higher complexities of case designs and trying to do what needs to be done to serve our clientele. And we keep going at it, and we don't pretend to know everything. But what we do absolutely assure people is that we will find the answer. And if we can't, we'll tell you so. We're not going to ever pretend we know something we don't. That's just foolish. And so the people we work for wouldn't put up with it, and nor should they. And that's leadership, I think. And an interesting part of leadership, believe it or not, is saying, I don't know, but I will find out.
Well, Hank, could you tell us a little bit more about your background? At least we haven't talked about it today.
Oh, well, all righty. Thank you very much, Cindy. Again, not to make it too much of an infomercial, but I have been advising individual people since 1987, and I'm very grateful that I've worked for several of the larger firms, and my resume is up on my website. It's a matter of the document that I file with the SEC, and everybody can see where I've been and what I've done. And I am very proud of the things I've been able to do in 26 and a half years of being continuously licensed as an investment advisor. And several years ago, I decided not to be a commission advisor, and I've been a fee-based advisor for a long time, but I surrendered the commission licenses. And so I have requirements to do what's in the best interest of the client. And that's about me. And frankly, I'm a boring conservative kind of guy. I really am. And I have a flavor for understanding where the growth is likely to go. And I have tools and techniques and relative strength measurements which help me guide my clients. And I'm a geek about law and accounting, although I don't have licenses there. And so I push a lot of my own quest for knowledge, my own hobby work is this work. And
another thing you told me the other day is you really enjoy that you give each client your own personal attention.
Well, of course.
They don't have to go through several other people in order to learn about their situation, their personal financial situation with you.
Well, we do the best we can. As the firm grows, that may not always be possible, but it is now. And at some point, I know everybody I work for, and I'm very grateful to have had that privilege. And so it is a special honor. It really is. We tend to form good long-term relationships. And
you're a CFP.
Oh, Cindy's calling out the credentials, and I am proud of that.
It's a big deal.
I'm proud of that. Yes, a certified financial planner, since a designee, we can't, anyway, it's not a noun, it's an adjective. Certified financial planner designee, and that's a licensing requirement, and which I've held that license since 1998. And also certified wealth strategist, and then a certified cash manager, which is a credential for corporate treasury work. And I've had municipal government clients for a long period of time. So I am grateful. I've been blessed to be able to communicate a lot of things. People have been very fortunate, I think, in being able to hear some of that. I have a little bit of a vested interest in that. I try to tell people what I really see. So it's been a lot of fun. We always wrap these shows by saying, make all you can, save all you can, and give all you can, because life is what you make it. Thank you, Hank and Cindy.
Life is what you make it. You can make it what you want it to be. Life is what you make it. You can make it what you want it to be. La 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 la. You can be anything.
You've been listening to The Plan with Hank Mulvihill. For more information, visit our website, Mulvihill Asset Management, at theplan.net. That's theplan.net. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great week.
You are successful. You have a goal to sustain and grow your wealth over the long term. After hearing Hank, you may be thinking right now, my investment plan needs attention. I need to set a personal appointment. That's simple. Call 972-234-2001. That's 972-234-2001. There's no charge for the meeting. Call 972-234-2001. Meet with Hank to discuss your plan. Before you go, check out theplan.net to see how Hank does business with wealth management clients. You'll have an opportunity to talk about the wealth strategist issues with the optimist economist himself, Hank Mulvihill. Successful? Want to move to that next level? Call 972-234-2001. That's